All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking our time to be here with us on today. We did move the meeting back a little bit, 30 minutes. There were a few people saying that they preferred a different time. And today is problematic with like a 5 o'clock start time, because we have National Night Out. We've got about 3 neighborhoods I think we're going to go into on tonight with National Night Out. But we did set up an email, and I think we received only one email, which is relative to the housing developments and something about some of the videos being filmed at some of these housing developments and what can be done. Not sure if Chief, you may have talked to the people on that or answered that particular question. Want to kind of give you some perspective. Now, I'm not going to go deep into all of the stats. Chief Collins is going to do some of that. But from January to August, there were 3 murders inside the city limits. In September alone, we had 2. So you had September 1st, and then last week was, I think, September 24th. We had, a couple things happen both of those nights. But I guess the point I'm trying to make with that is we were trending with that particular graphic, shots fired and even murders. I think we were trending better than last year, at least somewhat better, even if it was just by a little bit. But then September itself, kind of certainly, think about that, 2 in the month of September, and then for 8 months you had 3, so you can kind of see what that does. I want to start with this, and I certainly appreciate our Crime Stoppers. I'm going the wrong way here. Appreciate our Crime Stoppers committee. I saw Dr. Parker here. Don't know if I see any other Crime Stoppers committee members, but we certainly appreciate their time and their commitment. One of the ideas that they had, and you may see these around town already, is that they came up with this design, which I think is pretty good, kind of sticking with something of Natchitoches, and it has that number on there, keep our community safe, of course, call anonymously. And so we really appreciate the Crime Stoppers Committee, and I do want to acknowledge as well our DA is here, as well as our sheriff, and if they want to have some remarks, we certainly want to open up the floor for them to do that if they so wish to do it. But Crime Stoppers was a partnership between the mayor's office and the DA's office, so we certainly appreciate DA Harrington's work in helping to establish that. And we do get tips from that. Lieutenant Townsend can share some of that just a little bit later on. But there were about 40 signs. We tried to disperse them evenly throughout the city. And so again, we want people to use that. It is totally anonymous. Nobody knows your name or anything like that, so it is totally anonymous. So my role is just kind of share some of the things that we've done. Of course, I hit on Crime Stoppers already, hit on it again. I think it's an important tool. The way I look at this is you've got a puzzle piece, or you got a puzzle, and each piece is significant. No one piece is going to solve the whole puzzle, but each piece is significant, and you certainly have to have a mindset of continuous improvement. Don't grow weary in well-doing. You got to keep the fight, if you will, because the city that we have in which we live and we love is one that is worth fighting for. It's one that is worth your time and energy. It's one that is worth us trying to figure out how we can, see better reduction results in the area of crime. So again, I think it's certainly worth it. All right, one of the things that we have been talking about internally, and not just talking about, we actually budgeted some money, $45,000 for this year, to establish a teen center that some other cities have a teen center in them. And you can see some things that are going on. Could be a hangout spot, if you will, for teenagers. But I think more than just that, you see at the bottom left, there's some cooking lessons going on. So it's that age group, as you see on the flyer, that dates back to 2022. It's from a different community, but I kind of wanted to show you some of what we would do with that. Is that 13 to 18 years of age, that you're trying to engage, you're trying to reach out to. As we think about those stats, if you look at the 5 murders that we have had in the city limits, 3 of them have been younger than 18. So we've had a 17, we've had a 16, and a 15-year-old. to be murdered, and 2 20-year-olds. That's how you get to the 5. So there is something that needs to, certainly some attention and resources need to be focused on that demographic of the age, of these particular ages, 13 to 18. Some of the things I wrote in my note, it's not just a hangout spot, but it's a place only for teens. Conflict resolution could be, something that's taught and expected among the teens in the teen center. Could be other classes. Talent development is something that I've seen that teen centers have done, and I like to see that happen here. And so we've talked about it with Parks and Rec, with Community Development Director, even with Finance, and we've got another meeting scheduled this week. So I'm hoping that we can really make this a reality by the beginning of the year, but could be sooner, but that's the goal, the beginning of the year, make this teen center a reality and really engage this particular demographic of our population, all right? The next thing. All right, this is something I've shared. I'm gonna make a presentation to our city council at our next city council meeting, which is the 14th, I think it's the 14th. And there have been some discussions. I know people probably have their thoughts about it. But this is a gun buyback program. I want to use some of ARPA, and I present that to the city council. We've got about $300,000 remaining of ARPA left. I want to take maybe up to $30,000 of that and put it towards a gun buyback program. And it'll be similar to the one that was done in Houston. I see they have collaboration with different agencies and even a church. And they've got it at $50, for a gun that's not functioning. So they've got the different price levels, all the way up to $200, I think, for an automatic rifle. All right, so they've got their different price points. And the thing is, let's get these guns off the street for those who don't need them right now and those who are not ready for them. All right, and I'll tell you this, that I am a gun owner myself, but I do believe that there is a challenge, there is an issue. We've got a lot of guns out there, maybe too many guns. And I say that knowing that not everybody agrees with that, but that's just a challenge of where we are right now. So this is an effort to take some of the guns off the street, especially in the hands of individuals who certainly do not need them. And so, like I said, I know there will be criticisms of just about anything that is done, but this is one effort that I'm hoping that we'll have some success. I did talk to earlier, Columbus, Ohio. They've done them. They did one last year. They did it again this year. And I think they found some success, which is the reason why they brought it back this year. So we're looking to do that. I'll present that before the city council. I'll just have a couple more slides and I'll pass it to Chief Collins. Oh, went the wrong way. All right, this slide here, one of the things, if you go on the city website, and I want you to look at that website because we have made some changes. If you go on the city website, you'll notice that each department has some goals and some objectives. All right, now for the Natchitoches Police Department, there are about 7 of them. And we've checked off a few of them. There's one, increased pay for officers. We've done that, and we know that's one that you don't just do it and it's done forever. We know how things go with that in terms of being competitive and some challenges that we have in that space. Whether it comes to, as Captain Mezier was talking about at the press briefing that we had in July, talking about the community initiatives that we've made in terms of Coffee with the Cops. I think they've taken it to several different locations. Walmart was one of the latest ones. I've seen them take it to Legacy. I've seen them take it to the Council on Aging, and to places like the spot on University. Is that McGee's, I think? Something like that? McGee's. All right, so again, just an opportunity for people to dialogue with the cops, to get an understanding, and it's reciprocal. It's cops and law enforcement professionals and the community being able to engage one another. So, but what we want to do here is to establish a community-based action committee with the purpose of identifying safety issues in communities and developing strategies. All right. Now, I have that link. Will you click on that link real quick, Steve? Strategies, and we'll get back to this presentation. Well, let's see. Yeah, you had to go to Yeah, let's go back real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. All right, if you go to strategies, the word strategies, I got it hyperlinked in there. Yeah, if you hover over the word strategies, yeah. And let's see. And what this is, again, I've been spending some time today with Columbus, Ohio. Of course, their city is bigger than ours. I don't know the exact population, maybe 5 or 6 times bigger than us, so a different dynamic. But if you can make that just a little bit bigger, Steve. Yeah, right there with that. Yeah, with that little box. No, yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, so what they've done is they have the Office of Violence Prevention. And if you look at this website, so sort of that thought that we have one of our goals, and we want to really enact upon that goal, community-based. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on as well. But if you scroll down just a little bit more with this little website, of course, they give you the address. They tell you what this Office of Violence Prevention is about. There's a mission given, there's a vision, and they then share their core beliefs of what they're trying to do. Everyone deserves to live in a safe neighborhood, which I wholeheartedly believe in as well. And they talk about addressing the systemic issues as it relates to community violence, all right? So again, that's one website, one idea, but we've already had that idea. We just want to act upon it as we've acted upon some other goals as well. Increasing our cameras. I think that was one of the goals. I just approved a requisition. That's when we approved the payment for cameras. I just did that on last week. And I think Chief Collins is going to have some exciting things, even in the midst of this sort of kind of meeting. I know much is not very exciting, but there's some exciting things I think he'll share that will elaborate more upon our camera situation. You just go back to the PowerPoint, Steve. Just a couple of the things I'd like to share. The next slide, when Steve gets it up, is going to be a slide dealing with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Actually, the office for Big Brothers, Big Sisters is held in this building, the front of the building to the right. And what I'm basically imploring you to do with that, I was told the other day, we have 75 littles. All right, those are the mentees, the kids who said, look, I want to be mentored. All right, their parents signed them up for the program. We have 75 littles, but I was told just the other day that we need more bigs. You know, so if you're looking for how can I give back, how can I help, like I said, every effort matters. You know, I've been getting some phone calls since last Tuesday. We know about the situation. Of course, it's an ongoing investigation, so I know we can't say everything that we know. I hope people understand that is the case. But I've been getting calls from people just saying, look, I got this idea if we can do it. I think we ought to do this. So yeah, we need people to brainstorm those ideas and implement those ideas. We obviously can't expect government, which is City Hall here, or police to do it all. It's just not humanly possible. But I do welcome those good ideas, and we certainly want to support those where we can. We can't lead every effort, but we certainly can support those where we can. But one thing I would challenge people to do, sign up for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. If you were to just simply Google Big Brothers, Big Sisters Natchitoches, Facebook page will pop up as one of the links. Click on the Facebook page. When you click on the Facebook page, you'll see their link. Now then when you click on that link, there is a part of their link that says, a tab is called Become a Big. We need more people to click on that link on the Big Brothers, Big Sisters website that says Become a Big, and mentor some of these youth who may not have that influence, who may not have that positive role model, who need a voice of reason in their life. And so we need people, some of you sitting in this room today, some others who may not be sitting here, to sign up to be a big, and that's one way that you can help our community out as we're facing this issue at this current time. All right? All right. One thing I want to stress, this is my second to last slide that I'll share with you. I want to stress to you police plus community, or government plus community. And this is one of those situations in which you're preaching to the choir. I mean, y'all have heard of that, right? You go to church and, the pastor's preaching, maybe he's fussing, and he's fussing to the people, but the people who's listening to it are the folks who are doing good anyway, the folks who abide by the law anyway, the folks who want better in our community anyway. But somehow we have to get it to people even beyond this room, because I see a lot of good taxpaying citizens. I see a lot of people who love Natchitoches and care about Natchitoches, but we've got to get it to other places. If that's moving the time back a little bit, we'll do that, all right? But even beyond that, getting it to folks who need to hear it, it's police plus community. It's government plus community. We can't do it by ourselves. And there's no community, no city where the police can just do it by themselves. I hear people say, oh, the police got to just work and they figure it out themselves. That's not how it really works, though. We've got to have the mindset. And I think with this last spree that we saw last Tuesday, I'm encouraged, but I hope it continues. It has to be not just government, not just police, not just law enforcement, but it has to be community as well. That's just what it's got to be. That's the recipe. That's the formula. And I bring this up because Mr. Lewis Gossett Jr., you've heard of him. I think he recently passed. This is in the movie Daddy's Little Girl. Anybody ever saw that movie? Daddy's Little Girl? All right. And it's a Tyler Perry movie. And I wanted to share this, and look, he's going to be pretty direct, but I just want to read it as Tyler Perry wrote it. I wanted to get the clip, but it's very hard for us to get the clip. But here's what he says. It's pretty short. It says, I've been in this neighborhood for almost 67 years. I've watched Dr. King walk this very street to go to the barbershop. I remember Billie Holiday, who checked into what used to be the only hotel in the South that will allow black people, right here on Auburn Avenue. What I remember most is we used to be a people that would take care of ourselves. Nobody never gave us nothing. We all earned it. We look at these politicians and we ask that they help. It ain't up to them. It's up to us. And if we all stand up together, then maybe they'll come and help us. That's the history of us as a people. We have to get our neighborhood back. I can see my whole neighborhood up here. It ain't but 5, 10 blocks, but it's a whole different world out there. So if you get what he was saying, you know, in his, I know it wasn't all correct grammar, right? But he was telling the community, I know it's just a movie, but I think that is true, that you have to have the community stand up and help law enforcement. Now, we've got to be accountable. We've got to do our job. We've got to implement strategies that help as well. So we've got to be held accountable too. But the point is, the formula is us working together, all right? Last slide that I've got, Steve. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's me. Okay. We had this meeting on last week at the event center. It's about 10 or 11 of us. If you were to look at this closely, you'll see city officials. You'll see Chief Wynn. He's talking about the fire station that we've got coming on University. We're really excited about that. Matt is going to get up and talk about our need for funding for water line replacement, because we know some people are getting the discolored water, and so we're looking for solutions for these things, and these are very expensive projects. So we're sharing with them all of our, not all of them, but some of our big infrastructure issues, and there's one in which Nick Farek, the city engineer, gets up and he talks about, you know, road improvements that we need, and he talks about things that we want to do, where the roundabout is going in, service roads and things like that. We think that can spur some economic development. But there's also a portion in which we told them, hey, there's some challenges that we've got here, and there's some things that we can't fix on the city level. One of them, that Chief Collins and I talked about, he couldn't be present. He was with a city employee. But one of them we talked about is that 17-year-old now being tried as an adult. That's great, but one of our issues is that when it comes to how do we house them, we got to house them with the juveniles, which I guess the challenge is, obviously for us, it's a lot more expensive to do. We're going to do it. We're going to find the money to make sure it happens. But that's just one of the things that Chief Collins, if he wants to mention a couple others, he certainly can do it. So going to have Chief Collins come up, and he's going to talk about some stat analysis and some grants. And if you want to share a little bit of that, what we share with the legislators, he can do that as well.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming out to come in and be part of this topic and discussion. We're going to go over a few stats, what had happened during our quarter. We'll talk about a few things, and then we'll also cover some grants. I would like to introduce my staff. I have Assistant Chief Brad Walker, Captain Billy Mezier, Captain Susan Johnson, Lieutenant Townsend, and the Criminal Investigation Division for the Natchitoches Police Department. None of what we do can be accomplished without our staff. So they're first and primary to the things that we have going that are going in the right direction, and of course we're all working toward improving what hasn't gone right. One of the things is when we were talking about the homicides that took place, last year at the same exact time for this quarter, we had 3 murders. I don't want to say, oh, we're flat, we're staying on an even keel. The problem is that we had 1 murder. That's too many. The mayor spoke about some of the problems and the challenges that we were met with each and every day, and of course we have to come up with new ways of addressing them. We try some things don't work. We've been working tirelessly over the past 2-3 years to try to develop different ways of handling things, and we also been reaching out for assistance to other organizations. I will cover that in shortly because the fruits of our labor have been accomplished. As he indicated, three murders. One thing I do want to point out, as we live in an era where everyone wants a gun, everyone's coming up with new and more tactically able weapons. Some of the weapons that I've seen are quite scary to see, that children, that people are purchasing and then having stolen from them. Those are the reasons and the main leading cause of what we see happening in our communities. They're easily accessible. Parents are not paying attention to the fact that they have these weapons, or they actually condone it, and then they use them with callous disregard to the public. And as a result of the high caliber round that's coming out of that weapon, it does catastrophic damage, and it hurts, and all too often leads to death. We've got to be very aggressive, at least from the law enforcement side, in recovering these weapons and utilizing the approach of seizing them when we can, and also documenting what we have. We collect on every crime scene that we respond to. If it's just a shots fired call and they find casings on the ground, they collect those. They collect that evidence, and it's processed and it's sent through the NIBIN system. This is very beneficial because we know for a fact that Natchitoches, for some reason, people feel Natchitoches is covered with a dome. We've recovered casings to weapons that are linked to Houston, to Dallas, to Shreveport. So when we often hear, oh, Natchitoches is getting like Shreveport. Well, unfortunately, we do have several individuals who come here from those locations, and they do bad things. Our job and objective is to actually take them into custody and place them under arrest. We had an increase in the number of arrests. That's a testament to the fact that our officers are out there trying to make a difference. You know, if we saw the numbers going down in our arrests, then we would be very disturbed and concerned, knowing that crime seems to be on the increase, so why aren't the arrests and doing the same? Next. We also have several cases in which we have aggravated shootings that take place. Anytime law enforcement, someone presents themselves at a hospital with a bullet wound in them, it's our protocol. We're going to be notified. We have 24-hour security there. They're going to contact dispatch and let them know that a unit needs to be sent so they can start a process. In that process, they contact the Criminal Investigation Division, and they come out and start trying to find out what happened. Was it an accidental, or did someone actually shoot these individuals? All too often, we're finding that the people who are victims do not want to report that they've been injured. They often say they're going to take care of themselves. And we know that that's going to result in someone retaliating or trying to take actions and matters into their own hand, and it often results in damage and loss of life and injury to others who have nothing to do with that. So anytime, and I encourage anyone who's out there listening and also in this room who have family members, friends who say, well, it's not my responsibility to pass on what I know. I say it all too often. You see something, you say something. We have to take back our communities. We have to take back the notion that what happens across the street, my neighbor, I'm not concerned about that, because you've got to understand that whatever happens to your neighbor could eventually happen to you. So law enforcement has a job to do. We're going to come out when we're called. We're going to respond. We work 24/7, and that's our job. So I've heard all too often when people say, oh, we don't want to bother you with it and this and that. It's what law enforcement signed up to do. And the thing is that it's really disturbing to know that there's several crimes that have gone unreported, or individuals have felt it necessary not to involve law enforcement. They've actually cursed my investigators out who are there to help them, and cursed them out and told them to get out of their rooms while they're getting treated. And this was all for the purpose of trying to get as much evidence and information as possible, because the faster we can get and collect evidence and get a suspect off the streets before they injure someone else, that is the best outcome that we look for each and every time. All too often, people who are not arrested, they tend to be victims of violent actions. So, criminal trespasses, they've been down. For some reason, we're not receiving as many reports of the criminal trespass, but we do take actions to make sure we're banning individuals. We worked hard. Chief Walker shared the last time that a lot of these transient and homeless people that are in our communities, we unfortunately don't have a homeless shelter here, but we've taken it upon ourselves to help these individuals out and contact homeless shelters that will go ahead and provide services to them. So if we have to transport, we've done so, just so that they're not a burden to this community, and also they can receive the care that they need. Domestic disturbances, we all know those domestic disturbances lead to usually violent encounters, and often someone's severely injured, and we try to reduce that. I know we have programs in place. We at the Natchitoches Police Department have a program called Knock Knock, where we go and check on victims of domestic violence so that we can prevent them from being injured or possibly killed from the hands of a loved one or an abuser. Now, we'll tout that, hey, we've had way fewer illegal use of weapons, but keep in mind, we've had 3 murders. So even though the shots that are being fired are down, the incidents that we've had have been more directed. It's not someone just firing their gun off or target practicing within the city limits of Natchitoches. They're doing things that are just highly violent. Same thing, we receive calls of juvenile problems, and when we have problems, we're going to respond and take necessary action. So the fact that it's going down, that is not an indicator that we're just having fewer problems. It's that people are not calling in as much. Theft from interior vehicles. That has been especially as we get close to the season where we have an event every week, every weekend, there's something going on, and we have these vehicles being parked. They're breaking in, they're taking items. We put out a lot of information on how people should secure their belongings, how they shouldn't leave things in plain sight, because that is an attraction to those individuals who are out there who want to take and make a crime of opportunity. I will cover just a few things real quick that didn't appear on the slide. We had our law enforcement responded to 329 burglary alarms as compared to the last year at the same time, 285. That's because people are becoming more technically savvy and getting those systems in place, and our officers are responding and hopefully deterring the individuals doing the crimes. Dispersing subjects, we've had 160 compared to 141, meaning that we have in more situations where we have people loitering and piling up in the area, so our law enforcement are responding to those before we have situations that take place. We've had 182 disturbances in this quarter compared to the 81 from last year. Extra patrols. Last year, for this quarter, we had 38 requests for extra patrols. This quarter, we had 10. If you feel that you're not seeing law enforcement in that area, call our police department. The dispatchers are going to make a note that, hey, they want frequent passes in this area. Please take that and utilize that as an option. We patrol 26 square miles, and the sheriff's office has a very large parish to take care of. And with our resources, them going from call to call, it is very effective and helpful to law enforcement when we know about someone suspicious in an area, walking around someone, a suspicious vehicle, or just something that's strange, or you just get that feeling. Call the police department. We're going to send units. They're going to come out there, and they're going to try to make sure nothing's going on and deter it. And often in cases where people have called immediately for someone who's in an area or breaking into something, our law enforcement are able to catch them. And also the fact that we have a good working relationship with NSU and with the sheriff's department, we monitor each frequency. So therefore, when that happens, they respond as well. So far as our crime, as far as the total calls compared to last year at the same time, we had 4,830 compared to 4,683. That's a 3% difference, but it feels like things are just getting worse because of the fact that we have individuals who are just show a callous disregard for life and property and the safety of our community. Last year we applied for funding because we realized some things, the actual household environment and some of the things that we're seeing in these communities that are broken, we realized that we needed help. So in following the format and recommendations from various different agencies, we reached out and applied for funding. Last year we were unsuccessful in getting that funding, but I'm proud to announce this year we were successful in getting funding for the BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance Rural and Small Department Violent Crime Reduction Program. As part of that, we developed a program called Strategic Enforcement to Reduce Violence through Engaging the Natchitoches Community. $292,867 were awarded to us and it's a 3-year program. This funding that was provided will allow us to do several different things that are going to help us target and also reduce the crime in our area. One of the areas that the program will allow us to do is to purchase more cameras, because we know law enforcement can't be everywhere. People can't always see something. If someone's shooting, most of the time people are getting down. So it's hard for us when we come there and we ask, what did you see? They say they saw the floor. So the thing is, we realize this. Years ago, we took the big step of putting and implementing cameras in various different places. The city itself has over 150 cameras that it's deployed throughout buildings, but in a law enforcement world, we need access to something quickly in the field at your on your phone or whatnot, and then the ability to know information. If you're looking for a particular car, if you're looking for a particular person, utilizing technology of AI, these programs are accessible and now available. We provide access to our agency as well as the Natchitoches Parish Sheriff's Office, so that these items that are in place throughout our community can be accessed and hopefully quickly resolve a crime. With the funding, 73,000 is being provided to purchase more of those cameras, and we'll build upon what we do have. We also, with part of that funding, we have money that has been allocated, similar to how we've done in the past where we've had action, we've had VCAT and other operations. Our goal is to develop and through partnerships, a violent crime task force that is geared toward targeting and hunting down the individuals that are causing the chaos in our community. The funding that's been provided will provide this funding each year for 3 years, and that funding will be made available and accessible. We'll communicate with, we're required to cooperate and actually work with BJA and the Technical Services Division to develop a strategy. We will be hiring an evaluator and subject matter expert that will evaluate whether or not our program's being effective, and the strategic plan that will be developed will be utilized to try to reduce the crime in particular areas and also get the results. We also realize that engaging the community is our best approach to dealing with crime. If we have a department that's getting younger and younger, our individuals who have met their time and they're ready to move on, they're doing so. So in doing that, we have to bridge that gap with those individuals in the community. We often hear community policing, community policing. We heard that. And so what we're trying to do is engage the community more by developing programs that put us hand in hand and in sync. As the mayor indicated, we plan to have a community, a group of individuals who will be part, and it's actually part of the grant that will help be a steering committee to help us in addressing the most prevalent things in those communities that they're concerned about, that law enforcement is able to help with. A lot of times, sometimes it's just the assumption it's in our purview to do some things, and sometimes it's just a matter of bridging that gap where you have the opportunity to explain that, and they find out what they saw on TV doesn't translate to what is actual in real life. So what we're going to be doing is implementing the program. We tried it last spring. We had a few people sign up. It didn't happen. So now we have funding for the next 3 years to host and conduct citizen academies where we're basically interacting with the police. The citizens have the ability to sign up. They're going to go through an academy. They'll learn and learn things. They'll find out what law enforcement's doing. They'll be introduced to law. They'll be introduced to some of the things that law enforcement have to deal with, because tearing down the barrier between us and the community, thinking that we're heartless, corrupt, or individuals who are not concerned about solving problems, that is often torn down when individuals are actually getting to meet law enforcement. That was the whole purpose of the Coffee with Cops, so that they can see, they can put a name with a face and realize that we are people and we are concerned. So this program will be geared at allowing people to come in, see. You've often saw on TV those scenarios where people are given a shoot, don't shoot situation, and people are like, oh, I would have done this. Well, when they are faced with that, they find out real quickly, oops, and then they realize that's what law enforcement deals with on a daily basis. So that program's developed to do that. We also will be implementing a senior patrol. Some of our most precious assets in our community are our elderly. We go on calls all the time, but at the same time, I've heard from citizens directly that they are so ecstatic when officers stop and just get out and talk with them or just ask them how they're doing. And all too often that doesn't take place because they're going from call to call to call, or they're typing reports that they've got to get submitted, because if they don't, the person that they're arresting gets released due to the way the law requires us to process things. So this is an attempt to not only engage our seniors, to also develop that rapport, because those people are going to be the ones that help us in addressing some of the crime in the area, because they're relaying that information to us because we've developed that rapport. And only when we're getting that information can we take the steps necessary to combat some of these situations that we're encountering and facing. We also will have, we're already doing it, but we will continue and actually increase the volume of our RAD training. That's rape, aggression, defense. We will host those classes for the community at no cost, and it will allow people, because one of the stats that I didn't cover here, in the last quarter, we had an increase of the number of reported simple rapes and rapes that were aggravated. We had a total of 9 as compared to last year having 1. That's because it's a mixture of things where you have individuals, young adults, young juveniles being allowed to go out after hours with people who are, you know, or that they shouldn't, and things have happened. There's situations where there's been some cases from years ago that have come to light. So therefore, for some reason, we've had a peak. But we want to make sure that our community is safe. So we're going to provide that training to our public, and hopefully that will be something that will be well utilized. So in closing, I would just say that I can't stand up here and say that, oh, crime's going down, or that we got the solution and everything's just going to stop. We still encourage each and every one of you to be active, be loud, be vocal. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you think we should be doing, because we do appreciate the input, and we do appreciate the ability to have that dialogue, because we can only address the problems that are being presented to us when we're aware of them, and we're going to continue to try to solve the issues that we've seen developing and spiraling out of control in some aspects, especially in dealing with our juveniles. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Collins. And I just want to say, before we get Lieutenant Townsend up, that this is a really big deal. $292,000 to do all of the things that Chief Collins said. What we're trying to communicate and show you that we certainly want to use the funding that we have at our disposal well in a smart way, but also some of the federal funding that's out there as well. So we applied for 3 grants actually back in the spring. This was one we applied for back in the spring, and we know we got the first one we got was the fire grant, AFG, which is a cool one to fire. They've got another one that we hope to hear back. And then we applied for Safe Streets for All. We're going to do the press release. So we've got a couple grants that we haven't done the press release on. We haven't done one on this one yet. Chief found out on Friday, and it's right up our alley what we need. Again, the name of it is Rural and Small Department Violent Crime Reduction Program. Certainly we want to see a reduction in that. Do you know how many awards there were, Chief, nationwide? Okay, don't know, but it's not like they have 300 awardees. So it may be, I'm just throwing out a number, it may be 15 awardees. So that's pretty good to say that we're competing on a national level for these funds that I know other communities are competing for, and we actually won this cycle. This is actually our second time. We shot for it last year, but we didn't give up, and we came back and got it. I want to say that I mentioned earlier that we are doing some updates to our website. I think it's pretty user-friendly is what we're doing. But really, the grant that we won is based off of this Violent Crime Reduction Operations Guide. So we're not pulling these things that the grant is going to do. We're not just, pulling it from a hat, or we're not just sitting around, let's roll the dice and think about something. This is, and we'll make this available, you can probably even Google it, Violent Crime Reduction Operations Guide. It's a PDF, something online, but it's chiefs, major city chiefs throughout the country, they develop, okay, these are some things you can do. These are proven things that can be done to help reduce violent crime. So again, I thought that was really, really important to say and really important to know. I will say just one more thing about what Chief Collins said. He said that law enforcement respond. Obviously we want to be as preventative as we can, but nobody has some type of I think I mentioned this the last time. Minority Report was a movie where they knew when the crime was going to happen, and they arrested people before they did the crime. That's not how it really works in real life. So we can't arrest until there's a crime committed. We like to catch it before it happens, but and we certainly applaud those times when that does happen. But I just wanted to say that. I want to bring Lieutenant Townsend up to talk about some of the homicides, and he may want to say some things about the most recent developments in the case from last Tuesday. All right, Lieutenant Townsend.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. As everyone's aware, the Mayor mentioned, the Chief mentioned as well, we've had 5 homicides in the city limits in 2024. So I'm just I won't take up much of your time. I'm going to briefly go over it. So Mr. Dion Coleman, in March of this year, was murdered. Mr. Dalen Harris, in April of this year, was murdered. Mr. Jordan Taylor, in July. Mr. Kadarius Miller, in September. And Mr. Matthew Daniels here most recently, last week in September. Those are 5 young men who had families, their sons, nephews, grandsons. Regardless of what was going on in their lives, they didn't deserve to be shot and gunned down the way they were. So I know the Mayor mentioned some updates on the most recent. What I will say is that there have been 2 arrests made in the murder dealing with Mr. Matthew Daniels last week. Investigation's ongoing. I will not give any further details about that. It is not closed. It's not finished. The rest of the situations that we have pale in comparison to a murder. Doesn't matter how many burglaries we have, and we know that burglaries happen every day all over the country. Houses get broken into, businesses get broken into, cars get broken into. But when someone is murdered, that trumps every bit of it. It does. It's prioritized differently. We can work up 100 burglaries this month, but the moment that a murder happens, all that goes on the back burner until something is resolved. The Mayor alluded to it, the Chief alluded to it. We can't be everywhere every day. We're not there when these murders occur. We're not standing there watching it. We cannot do this without input and help from the public. Some of the murders occurred in broad daylight with 10, 15, 20 people standing around. This latest one, we've had some people come forward and give statements. They've been courageous to do so. Put their names on a statement and say, I saw X, Y, and Z. We also have Crime Stoppers. You can download the P3 Tips app on your phone. It's anonymous. You can also call 318-238-2388 to Crime Stoppers. But I want everybody to understand that an anonymous tip from Crime Stoppers is a tool. It points us in a direction. It's not probable cause. We can't arrest someone based on an anonymous tip. We have to verify that information. We have to corroborate that tip. We have to have evidence to make an arrest. And ultimately, an arrest serves nobody any purpose if we can't get a conviction. Convictions are the only things that make the streets safer when we get convictions on murderers. Arrests don't do it. So I would implore everybody in the city, everybody out of the city, if you're kin to somebody who told you something, anything that you hear, anything that you saw, reach out to us. We're not going to turn you away. We had someone yesterday call us and say they didn't want to meet us at the office because someone would see. We will meet you in the middle of the woods if we have to. We don't care. We will drive there. Or you can use Crime Stoppers. But every small piece of information, just because you assume someone's already told us, doesn't mean we have it. Give it to us anyway. The more, the better. Thank you.
Thanks, Lieutenant Townsend. And I'll just add to what he said about the Crime Stoppers piece. We've seen where people put evidence in Crime Stoppers. So we've seen people put videos and things like that. So if there's evidence that you have and you want to put it through Crime Stoppers, you certainly can do that. There's a way to do that. So again, I think that's cool. And I do want to say as well, because like we said, we had a couple really bad nights in September. starting out really with September 1, which was the night of Labor Day, Labor Day weekend, I should say. Sunday night it was, you know. Couple things happened that night, few things happened that night, actually. That was the night in which Kadarius Miller was murdered. But then there was also an attempted murder. I've got to say that this just speaks to the fact that we got to have a collaboration between the sheriff and the city. There was a sheriff deputy who knew about the make of the car and everything, and actually stopped the 3 individuals. And then he got back up from the city, and we were able to arrest those 3 individuals who were. We put out the press release on that. We were able to arrest those 3 individuals who were involved in the attempted murder on the Melrose Apartments, whatever. I know they've gone through several names. But so again, we do certainly appreciate that collaboration between the 2 agencies. All right, I'm just gonna, maybe that's something that Assistant Chief Walker, Captains Johnson, and Mezier would like to say. I want to give the floor to them for a moment.
I think it's pretty much been covered. I can answer any questions if they have when they start asking questions, but I mean, I think y'all pretty much covered everything.
All right, well, again, we thank you all for what you do there. And I know, again, we've got the DA was here, Sheriff, if there's anything, maybe there's a question that may come up as well. Steve, if you would give us, y'all, we have our first National Night Out starting at 5 o'clock. Where's the first one? Is that Asbury? Okay, Melrose, Southtown. So we'll do, give us 18 minutes. Well, I say give us 23 minutes, Steve. You can give us 23 minutes. We'll, if there happen to be any questions, there may not be 23 minutes worth of questions, but we certainly want to offer this time. And obviously, there's certain things that can be stated if it's about the particulars of a case. Obviously, we can't. There's certain things we can't say. You get that. So nobody's hiding from anything. We just have to be sensitive to that fact. But certainly want you to, if you have a question, want you to come to the microphone and ask that question, as everybody will be able to hear it. Okay? And also, if you have a question for a particular person, you can say that, or just, you know, if it's for me or for Chief Collins or Assistant Chief Walker, whoever.
My name is Latoria Freeman. I'm the publisher of the Reviews. My question is for Chief. As far as the cameras, you mentioned that you have 150 cameras that's within the city. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The actual city started building out an IP-based system years ago, but we've added on to the cameras that they had with a system that's more geared toward law enforcement. We are working and looking into incorporating those 150 cameras into the same system we're using, so that we can have what most real-time crime centers utilize. They have everything integrated so that they can get the analytics. So if you said, hey, this person's wearing a red shirt, all those cameras can be searched at one time and pull up that actual person, and which helps law enforcement in their response. So we don't have 150, we have 66 on top of the 150 that the city has incorporated. So,
Okay, out of that 66, how many are actually working that's not obstructed by trees or actually getting footage, specifically on July Street?
On July Street,
The
those cameras are up. Those one of the cameras had been down for some time, and of course we have to go through a process through where we try to get it repaired. They do an RMA, then we have to send it off. The place we take it to is Lafayette. They swapped them out, and on that same day, a camera had just been put back up. So those cameras work. They're there. There's no trees obstructing the camera, the actual view where it's at. We know that every camera that we do have has limitations. If you have a camera and it's positioned here, it's definitely not going to catch something on Front Street. And so that's the realism of it all. The thing is that's why we're trying to get more up in these areas, so that we can have safe areas that we know are covered, so that if someone chooses to do something wrong, we have the ability to look that information up. Even though it's reactive, it still helps us hopefully find a criminal and make sure that suspect and the victims get justice.
Okay, last part to that. So what are the stats that the cameras have actually helped you solve a case?
I would defer to the CID commander. We have had some major crimes solved directly from those cameras, and that's useful in the sense that we didn't pay a dollar for them. They were grant purchased, and they're beneficial because they work 24/7. As long as they're running, they're working, and they're uploading the information to a cloud, so no one can just go and, get rid of it, per se.
So who has the stats?
He can speak to it. That's a question that we possibly can compile what you're looking for, but he can speak to the fact of some of the crimes that we've actually solved utilizing those systems.
So I don't have those stats with me, the specific numbers. I do know that there are a large amount of all types of crimes where the city cameras have aided us in locating suspect vehicles or suspects leading to arrest. It's a lot. I just don't have those numbers with me.
Okay, thank you.
You are. And I do want to point out that part of the new strategies that we're utilizing will compile that information, and it's part of our grant to make sure that we are getting the results that we intend to get from them. Maybe the camera's not in a good spot, so the thing is we're looking at that, but the goal is to actually get the city of Natchitoches, especially our areas that aren't fortunate to have fiber and wireless connectivity, getting them set up so that they have that coverage. You want me to go over what the online question was?
We had one online question.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, man.
Mine's real quick. Mayor, you stated that y'all had established an email address that people could email in. I've never heard of that. Where is it published?
Well, and we may have to do something more official, but Steve, what it is, I shared the information. Is that information at natchitochesla.gov?
That's one of them, yes.
Yeah, that's one that I use on this last post when advertising for this particular meeting here. So information at natchitochesla.gov. But, Steve comes up with some of those particular email addresses that we may have to say particularly for this. But that's one of those emails that we use to kind of send things to.
And that would be good if you could put it on your Facebook page. A lot of people don't go to the websites all the time.
Right.
And as far as this meeting goes, most of the people didn't know about the meeting until we started talking it because it was on your page and not the city's page.
Right, gotcha. Mhm.
And it wouldn't share, so that was the
Okay.
problem.
What's that?
It wouldn't share. from
Okay.
Your page somewhere else.
I got you. Yeah, and I think we'll get into the rhythm. So our plan is to do these as long as we have to. The hope is that everything will be great. We never have to do them, but obviously we know that's not our reality right now. But we're doing them, once each quarter ends at the beginning of that particular month. Yeah, but we'll get that. I'll put it on the city's page and everything.
Okay, and then on your slideshow, when you were talking about the team club,
Yeah, the team center.
okay, that's a good idea, but from 1 to 4 on Saturday, their time that they need something is at nighttime.
Right.
They need something for the kids to do in the evening.
Right, and that was just, that's not saying that that's how we're necessarily going to do it. But no, I take you. I get the point you're making. Yeah,
Before in the afternoon, they're sleeping off from the night before.
Right.
So we need something at night.
Right.
To
No, I get
occupy
that.
them.
I get that. And I just pulled it so people can kind of see. Again, this is an old graphic, but it kind of just shows some of the things. But no, I will take that point under
I had 3
advisement.
things, but you talked so long, can't remember the third one now.
Okay.
I'll text it to you when I remember it.
All righty. Okay, there's one question that was submitted via email.
A citizen submitted, can the police and housing work together and conduct searches? A lot of these young juveniles with weapons live with their parents who are on housing. They are filming rap videos in these government apartment complexes, holding guns, money, and drugs. I'll cover that real quickly, and Captain Measer, if you would like to chime in. We often have our hands tied. It does give us a barometer to assume that, hey, this may be something there, but we can't make arrests. That's not probable cause to get warrants or enough to get search warrant for a residence. When they're filming at these complexes, there have been some cases where we get called so that we can respond, and by that time they disrupt. But the concerns are people in housing have the same rights and privileges as anyone else. We can't violate their Fourth Amendment. They do have certain processes that, in order to make sure the property's safe, that they go through, but they have to give notice. That notice is provided. There's so many days that elapse, and then they can make entry into those residents. But as of yesterday, in talking with housing directly, and them and their administrative office and their director, they said that their working arrangement with the police department has been the best that it's been in several years, because of the fact that we share information with them. We have a member that's on staff, Corporal Stevenson, that actually handles the background checks of each and every resident and tenant that goes there. The housing has a policy in place that allows them to evict tenants immediately once some wrongdoing has been recorded there. So when law enforcement does have the opportunity to go make an arrest, we find weapons, drugs, and things of the like, they're able to actually get that tenant out of there. They're probably more than likely already suspects, so they get them out of the environment to make that community safer, because that's the goal, is you want to have safe communities. So, Captain Meeser?
I'll be brief. It is true that we've been working a little more closely with the Housing Authority, but as the same as said prior, we need the general public to help us with this. Just recently, there was a situation where a person seen a individual with a gun, but decided not to say something until hours later, and by that time, the gun was gone. So we need that information as soon as you get it, so we can respond and do what we need to do on our part, as well as housing needs to do what they have also. Thank you.
I just found this game that completely takes my mind.
Chief Collins, if you would send this to whomever, I don't know who to address it to. My name is Wayne Holm, and I'm considering buying one of these doorbell cameras. Ring is the brand that I know. I want to ask you, do those cameras provide enough resolution to be useful to you guys, or is it just my doorbell?
Sir, I know we were able to make an arrest for a homicide thanks to a doorbell camera. So it's the type you get, and also the lighting and how you have it positioned with any surveillance system, just like the question that was posed, whether or not a camera is obstructed. It is beneficial. I would encourage anyone to utilize the technologies that are out there, because not only do you have the ability to see someone doing something at your property, you're alerted, you're able to notify law enforcement so they can respond and hopefully catch this individual, and you also have something that preserves that so that it can be provided to law enforcement to help prosecute them. With these camera systems, years ago, I was given instruction by Chief Dove that he wanted to be part of the Rings neighborhood system. So, and this was a direct request from members of the Amanda Street area. So immediately that day, I got us signed up and we became part of it. So we get notices when people post their videos from different incidents on that site, and they share them. Our investigators and members who are signed up with law enforcement are able to get that and see that and utilize that in helping try to solve a case. So, yes, sir, I would encourage any and everyone who's capable to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, again, thank you all for being here with us on tonight. We'll have our next one in January. Hopefully, we'll have some really good news to share with you on that. We will be at 3 national night outs tonight. 2? Okay, 2. It was 3, but 2. All right, so that's going to be Southtown Community or Town South, and then that's the Melrose Community. All right, so we'll will be there. Look, I do thank all of our, we got our detectives here, we got our administrative staff here, but all of our law enforcement, we do appreciate the work they do day in and day out. Sometimes it can be a thankless job, but we certainly appreciate what they do. Of course, Steve, IT, he's always working with us, and so we appreciate him. Shauna left, but she helped to put some things up, so we're thankful for her work, and always my assistant Aziza for her work as well. Again, have a good evening, and we appreciate you all for being concerned about our great city. Thank you, folks.